sometimes you got to let go of something that you really love just because it's not right for you. Just because you love something, just because you feel such a strong affinity towards something, just because you might feel so attracted to something, does not necessarily mean that that something is for you. And sometimes it's even a matter of timing, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's just not the right time, sometimes it's not the right moment, it's not the right situation. Sometimes you just have to be willing to change, to let go, to move forward, to do what's best for you in that particular space and time of your life. And in this case, it took me making a video about something to realize that this video that is talking about these two lenses that I adore. I love the way they look. I love everything about them. Wow, this water's going a little crazy back here. Shit, I hope I don't get wet. Anyway, this video is about these two lenses that I love so much, my anamorphic lenses. My Sirui 35mm f1.8 and 75mm f1.8, both APS-C anamorphic lenses that I've been using on my Panasonic S5. But I haven't used them on a real project yet. I've just been using them to shoot YouTube videos and just, you know, just experimenting with things, you know. But I've had them for quite a while. And, you know, honestly, I've hardly used them. I've just used them just here and there, you know. It's like they're brand new. And so I'm thinking to myself, you know, why is it that I'm not keeping these lenses on my camera? They're not too big. I mean, they're much bigger than what I have. But there's just something about them that is just like not in sync with the way I shoot, with the way I make art, with the way I create. And I realize it's because they are no better for what I'm creating, you know, from what I see when I go back into my computer and see what I created and get into DaVinci Resolve and get to the final product. They're really not much better or not much different, let's put it that way, because, you know, better, worse, I mean, that's very subjective. And they're amazing lenses. They have beautiful colors. The artifact, you know, they have artifacts on them that I really like. The lens flares are something that's not a big thing for me. Like, I don't really care, you know. But the way they render images is really beautiful. But, you know, if you're shooting anamorphic, you know, you have to go a little bit beyond what you do if you're just doing like run and gun. Like, you're not really going to run and gun with anamorphic, you know. You got to be really intentional with making sure you're thinking about the aspect ratio that you're shooting at. You have to be really, you know, intentional about, is the story really served in that type of wide anamorphic type of look? Are you really looking for that big, grand Hollywood type of thing? And what is that big, grand Hollywood thing anyway? You know, I think that big, grand Hollywood thing is your story, to be honest with you. I don't think it has to do with lenses at all. I don't think it has to do with look, because in fact, you could shoot with any lens and put it into any aspect ratio and play around with your aperture and lens compression and stuff like that, and pretty much get anything that you want from any lens. And that's what I got to. You know, I shoot 99% of the time with a Minolta 28mm f2.8 vintage lens and a Minolta 50mm f1.4 vintage lens, a Rokkor lens. And they serve me for 99% of what I do. And you know, the other thing that's really weird is that I'm shooting this video with a lens right here that you would never think would render the type of images that I've gotten out of this video. I mean, let's face it, these images look beautiful, you know? I mean, it's pretty hard not to get good images on a day like today when things are changing and, you know, fall is upon us, you know, autumnal equinox, all that kind of stuff. It's beautiful, but I'm using a lens that I don't think anybody would think, oh my God, I need that lens to make a movie, you know? And so I went out and I did this video, and I did my anamorphic video, which was the last one. I mean, I've done a few anamorphic videos, but the last video was like really a deep dive into comparing 35mm lens with a spherical 35mm lens, and to see if it really made a difference. And you know, I've personally watched this video over and over and over again, and I'm like, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, you know? And I'm somebody who's trying to really simplify his life. I'm not trying to have a bunch of different things. In fact, because of how meticulous my nature is, and because I'm so, you know, kind of over the top with dealing with details and how I want things to look and sound and story and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to have too many options, you know what I mean? Like, I want to kind of keep myself to a certain parameter of things that I have, tools that I have in my toolbox to create my stories. And so that means I don't want to own a whole shit ton of lenses, you know? When I was shooting with the Sony a6400, I had a bunch of lenses. I had like every inexpensive APS-C lens that you could have. I tried all of them. You know, Tamron, Rokinon, Sony, everything. Like I used everything. And Sigma, I mean, I loved all of them too. But I had so many lenses, it was crazy. Like every day I'd get up and I always go out with my camera. I never leave my apartment without my camera. And it got to the point where I was like really having to make a decision, like what lens do I take today? And after a while I realized I was running around with the 18 to 105 all the time because I just didn't want to think about it, you know? Even though I'm not a huge proponent of zoom lenses, it's another lesson that I learned, that zoom lenses can also, zoom lenses can also be amazing, you know? Amazing, absolutely crazy amazing. And in fact, some of my favorite filmmakers use only a 24 to 70 on their camera. And so that should tell you a lot, you know what I mean? Like, we get obsessed with what type of lens we have, what brand, how much it costs, how sharp it is. You know, we look at these, you know, tests that people do with these graphs and stuff like that. And really, at the end of the day, what does that have to do with anything, you know? Like, it really has to, because once you know what you're doing, once you know how to get a good image, once you know how to focus, once you know how to deal with aperture, once you know how to get your white balance correct and deal with your ISO, and once you know how to get a great image out of your camera, first of all, you can use pretty much any camera, and second of all, you can get those images with pretty much any lens. Now, I think it's a good idea to have a lens that's as fast as possible because it gives you greater flexibility in what you want to do. That's why I love my Helios lens too. It's an f2. It's basically a 58mm lens, so it gives me a lot of possibilities of what I want to do, you know? So anyway, change. Change is so important, you know? Sometimes we get stuck in stuff, and sometimes we get stuck in these loops too, you know? And there has to be a moment at some point where you move forward. You know, you either commit to where you are and just sit there and get into your stories, or you let it go, you know, and you get back into your stories. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with the time of year and, you know, feeling like time is passing. I mean, this time of year is really always kind of profound for me and kind of melancholy, to be honest, you know. This is the time of year where I lost a lot of people. It's like anniversaries of a lot of deaths for me. And it just reminds me of the things that I was forced in my life to move on from. You know, and I'm talking about family, best friends, people like that, like things that I was just forced to, you know, it's like, it's not going to be here anymore, you know? And every single time I've been able to let go, which is a hard thing for me to do, I've been able to move forward into something that made me a better person, a better artist, smarter, more experienced, you know, just all the good things. Because I was willing to move forward, which sometimes is kind of scary. You know, we get comfortable, we get set in our ways, you know, we think we know. And in a case like this, it just gets you stuck because, you know, anamorphic for me was something that was so appealing to me and so, you know, attractive. Like, I just felt like I am an anamorphic shooter. Before I'd even touched an anamorphic lens, just from studying and watching and investigating all the films that were anamorphic and stuff like that. But then when I finally got my hands on the lenses and I shot, I loved them, but I always found myself going back to my spherical lenses. And yeah, part of the reason is they are a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to carry around, easier to use. I don't have to think as much about when I get into DaVinci Resolve and start doing all the math and, you know, de-squeezing and squeezing, and is 1.33 enough of a squeeze factor, because that's what my lenses are. And, you know, are APS-C enough? Like, do I need full frame anamorphic lenses? But then I thought no, because, you know, most anamorphic was shot at 35 millimeters anyway. And so, you know, all this stuff I'm thinking about that has nothing to do with telling a story, right? Absolutely nothing. And so I say all that to say that I am selling my anamorphic lenses, and I can't believe it was a video that I made that got me to this point.